Hi, welcome. So in the last video, we looked at the first conditional in Python, and that was the if. So now we are going to look at two in this video. There is the for loop and the while loop, which at times are very confusing for beginners. So we are going to look at both in this video so that you get the clear distinction between when to use a for loop and when to use a while loop. So let's just go straight and look at these two types of loops in Python. So we are here now. We want to be able to look at our for loops and while loops. So I'll just create a for loop first, and then we are going to look at the while loop after. So I'll just say for loop. Let's just start with for loops here, and then we are going to go down and look at while loops. So here we can create a simple for loop. This is how you create it. You start with the for word. So we can say for something in a range. So we have to give a range. So let's just say for index, for example, it can be anything. It can be I, it can be A, it can be J, it can be anything. In a range, for example, let's just say in a range 0 to 7, for example. Now print, just simple print index. So whatever you put here, you put the same thing here. So it could be name for name in this range, print name. It could be for boy in this range, print boy. It could be anything. So what you're just telling the for loop is that I'm giving you a range. So we're using a range function. So this range function is a function that also says there is a start, then there is an end, and by default the interval is 1. So which means it's going to start from 0, go to 1, go to 2, so plus, so it increases by 1. So 0 plus 1, 1, 1 plus 2, 1 plus 1, 2, 2 plus 1, 3, until it will stop there. So running this, for example, short like this, it prints 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and stops before reaching the 7. So this is a range function. It's a range function. It does the same thing. So you could leave out this one and then you get the same result. So the for loop is that you must give a beginning and an end. And then when we go to the while loop, you'll see that the while loop just needs a condition. If that condition is true, it stops. If the condition is not true, it will run forever. We are going to look at that. So now let us take, for example, our list of students. So let's just say we have students, and then we want to list them here. We can say we have Peter, we have Andrew, Michael, Grace, maybe James. Let's just list them, and maybe Nina, for example. Let's just list them like that. So here we could check the length of the student variable. So if I run this, for example, I could use a length function. So there's another function I'm introducing you to, so we'll be learning gradually. So it says there are actually 6 elements: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I could use even a for loop to be able to print these elements in this list, for example. So just with this same principle, we can say for now student. Again, as I said, you could call anything for pupil, for name, for anything, but you must now call these students because Python knows these students. So you're saying for this variable, this element in this variable called students. So for each of the elements in this variable called students, print, just like we saw there, print, for example, student. So see, you get it. So you get Peter, Andrew, Michael, Grace, James, Nina. So you able to print that very easily. So another thing you could want to do with a for loop is you might say for maybe index. Let's just use this example, index in range. So remember the range function, it takes a beginning and an end, and by default the beginning is 0, so we could just take the length like we saw here, this one here, copy this and paste it here. So we say the length, just this, let's just paste it there. So we say get us that range and then print. Now you need to say now the students, and then you put every index in. So it's going to get this length here, 0 to 6. It knows this variable, which is students here, and then it's going to be indexing each of them. So students index 1, students, the first index of student is Peter, the second index of student is Andrew, the third index is Michael, the fourth is Grace. So this is what it's going to do here. It's going to print the same thing like you've done up here. So another thing is that you could now be able to mix things up and even decide to print just a couple, maybe from this range to this range, or minus maybe from just the first 0 to 6 or the first 0 to 8. So you could always play with those things here and print the index down here. So now coming to a while loop. So let's look now at the while loop and see how it's different from a for loop. So while loop. So here I'll just create a simple while loop. So the first thing about while loop is you have to declare the variable. So I'll just say, for example, I equals to maybe 1 or 0. So I'm initializing the variable as 1 or 0. It starts from somewhere. Then I say while I maybe less than 10. So it's now a while. So the while function, you say while this condition is true. So as soon as, if it is true that I is less than 10, then print I, for example. So as we know that I is 1, is going to print 1. And then because 1 is less than 10, right? So if it was 11, then it will not be able to do that. So it first runs the first one. So print I. Then now you can say now that I equals to I plus 1. So I plus 1. So here you are saying that you keep changing the variable. So I was equal to 1 here, and then now I will move on to I plus 1, so it become 2. I will become 3, I will become 4, I will become 5. Then after some time I will become 9, and maybe when I becomes 10, the while loop is going to stop. So remember the augmented operator we saw. So this same thing can be written as I, as you see in most cases, plus equal to 1. So it is the same as I add itself, add 1. So I is equal to itself plus 1. So we could replace this with this one. So you're going to see more of this. Maybe if you're looking at things online, you'll see more of that in that case. So we are saying I plus 1, and it could be I minus 1 here still. So if all of this is over, now we go out of the while loop, and then we say print the loop is completed. The loop is completed. So it's going to stay here, print I first, check I is less than 10, it prints it. So let's run it. So you see here, you get your I equals to 1, and then it's doing a smart loop. So it's checking. After that, it stops somewhere here. So the while loop is smart to check what is happening here. So let's take the case where there was a minus here. Just see what's going to happen. So we know that this would not go up to 10. So let's run this. and you see it keeps running for a very long time because it's not able to reach 10. So it keeps running. So it could run for a long time because the only point it needs is that that condition should be true, that it is here as we saw. Let me go back there. So I have to stop it. I have to stop it because it keeps running infinitely. So the loop, I need to make sure that the condition here would resolve and be able to end up being something which is equal to 10 or greater than 10. So you can already start seeing the clear difference between the while loop and the for loop just by seeing that the while loop will not stop if that condition is not met. So let's just say if you had a fun something, you said password equal to, you initialize it, and then you're saying, let's just go here, you're saying here, while password is not equal to maybe James, for example. So if the password is not equal to James, you put your colon, ask the user to give us a password. So we are going to give an input function. So we are going to say, what is the password? And then now at the end, now we can print and say, maybe for example, we can use an f function to print and say you, or we can just simply print you have access to, you are welcome to the course. So if we run this, it's going to ask us for a password. So if I say the password is Nina, it's still going to keep asking me. If I say Mike, the while loop will never stop until I enter the right password, James. Then now it's going to say you are welcome to the course. So normally it should have been you are welcome to the course. So I think you can be able to see the clear distinction that while loop just gives a single condition and say while that condition is true, if it's not true, keep doing what you do down here. Unless it's true, then you stop. For the for loop, you give a range and you say maybe from this range to this range, print this. For this length of students, print that. So that is like a difference between the two, and the occasions you need one over the other. So I hope you have been able to learn the difference between a for loop and a while loop. And we are going to continue with other interesting things in Python in the subsequent videos. See you next video. Wish you good data luck.